Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Tuesday's edition of your favorite English bulletin, The News. You're broadcasting live from TVT studios here in Ilumi. Here are the headlines. Climate change remains a growing global challenge, prompting stronger environmental action in Togo. 5 years after it launched by the President of the Council for Esesmnanya, the National Reforestation Campaign continues to reshape the country's forest landscape. As part of this commitment, June 1 is observed nationwide as Tree Planting Day. And in this edition, we look at how citizens from the authorities mobilize to help restore the country's forest cover. Faith came alive in Lumi this weekend as hundreds of worshippers converged for the inaugural edition of God is Able. Through praise, worship, and moving testimonies, participants shared how God has worked in their lives under the theme, He Did It For Me. Stay with us, we bring you all the details shortly. And yes, it is always a pleasure to have you join us. The effects of climate change are visible across the globe and continue to pose a growing threat to the environment, human populations, and economic activities alike. In Togo, since 2021, significant efforts have been undertaken to safeguard the environment against ecological degradation and natural disasters. At the heart of this commitment is the National Reforestation Campaign initiated by the President of the Council for Esesmnanya, aimed at transforming the country's forest landscape. 5 years on, this ambitious policy continues to gain momentum, and Gabriel Ayena tells us more.
Togo is facing major challenges including forest conservation, ecosystem degradation, and the fight against climate change. To address these concerns, the President of the Council for Esesmnanya launched the National Reforestation Campaign in May 2021, calling for collective action. The objective is to plant 1 billion trees by 2030 and increase the national forest cover rate to 26% within the same period. Annual reforestation efforts have grown from 2 million trees to 13 million trees, resulting in a total of 50 million seedlings planted over 5 years. This represents an increase of more than 40%. These results reflect sustained efforts, strong commitment, and a long-term vision shared by both institutions and citizens to preserve natural resources for future generations. On the ground, the approach of planting, maintaining, and transforming is becoming increasingly visible. A reforested site in the maritime region, planted exactly 1 year ago, offers a clear example. These trees have recorded remarkable growth. Before 2020, the maritime region had never exceeded 200,000 planted seedlings. The 2026 edition of the National Reforestation Campaign is expected to mark a turning point. The government now facilitates access to forest seedlings to support the national effort. Various species are available to ensure high-quality planting operations and maximize tree survival rates. Since 2021, this presidential initiative has become a national priority. It addresses major environmental and socio-economic challenges by transforming landscapes, strengthening the green economy, and building a greener future for Togo while safeguarding its natural resources.
As is done every year, June 1, 2026 marks the launch of Togo's National Reforestation Campaign, remaining faithful to its commitment to environmental protection and the restoration of the country's vegetation cover. Staff of the Presidency of the Council took part in a tree planting exercise. The Director of the Cabinet and the Secretary General officially launched the initiative by planting the first seedlings. Our Fanuchugan has more.
At the Lome Festival grounds, the area was already well covered with trees. The Chief of Staff and the Secretary General and the staff members of the Presidency of the Council took part in a tree planting exercise a royal palm tree was planted during the activity. This initiative is part of the national effort to restore forest cover, championed by the President of the Council, Forest Ozimna Nasingbe. He has called on Togolese citizens to plant 1 billion trees by 2030 in order to combat the effects of climate change.
And in the same vein, the National Assembly and the Senate carried out tree planting activities on June 1 within the premises of their respective institutions. The initiatives form part of the National Reforestation Campaign and support the national objective of planting 1 billion trees by 2030. Gabriel Ayena.
A strong gesture in support of environmental protection. At the headquarters of the National Assembly, the tradition was once again observed. Professor Komiselom Klasu, president of the institution, led the ceremony. He was followed by other members of the bureau who planted cashew trees. These symbolic actions are part of the national campaign to restore forest cover and achieve the target of planting 1 billion trees by 2030. For the occasion, Professor Komiselom Klasu recalled the historical foundations of this national initiative, which has been observed for 94 years. Nearly half a century after its establishment, Togo continues to make environmental protection a national priority. The same exercise took place at the Senate headquarters. Senate President Barry Musa Barke, accompanied by his colleagues, carried out the symbolic but meaningful act of planting a tree. He stressed that the effort must go beyond planting and include the maintenance of trees to ensure their growth and survival. Through this mobilization, both the National Assembly and the Senate reaffirmed their commitment to the vision of a greener Togo. A microforest established within the parliamentary institution 3 years ago stands as proof of this commitment and continues to expand.
This year, the National Reforestation Campaign is targeting the planting of 16 million trees across the country. And at the Akepe Technical Landfill Center, government officials joined the effort by planting seedlings, highlighting Togo's ongoing commitment to environmental protection and the restoration of its vegetation cover. Awifanuchugan reports.
A strong mobilization to turn the ambition of a greener Togo by 2030 into reality. The government led by example from the Akepe Technical Landfill site, where ministers took turns planting trees. Local types include Terminalia, Kapok and Kaya were planted at this final waste disposal site, which generates significant greenhouse gas emissions. These types were carefully selected for their ability to produce biomass and absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, helping to protect both the environment and public health. Across the country, institutions joined local, administrative, and security authorities, traditional leaders, technical and financial partners, as well as students to mark the 5th year of the National Reforestation Campaign aimed at restoring Togo's forest cover. The initiative reflects the commitment of the President of the Council to addressing climate change and promoting a green economy. For the launch of the 2026 campaign, 2.5 million seedlings will be planted nationwide. Nearly 70 million trees are expected to be planted throughout the campaign, bringing the country closer to its goal of 1 billion trees by 2030.
And at the 1st Rapid Intervention Battalion in Lome, the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces also participated in the exercise of planting trees, demonstrating a shared commitment to reforestation and environmental preservation.
Behind the fence of the central garage and along the railway tracks, staff of the Joint Green Fund planted 2 types of trees, Cassia simea and Kaya senegalensis. The Joint Green Fund brings together 7 state institutions, the National Social Security Fund, the Togolese Revenue Office, the National Lottery of Togo, the National Health Insurance Institute, the Management and Intermediation Company, the National Documentation Directorate, and the GTA C2A Insurance. The second site was the Renaissance residence of the National Social Security Fund. There, the staff planted around 33 seedlings.
Praise, worship, and wonderful testimonies filled the evening of Sunday, May 31 in Lome during the inaugural edition of God is Able. Held under the theme, He Did It For Me, the spiritual gathering brought together numerous worshippers who came to celebrate God's greatness and share their personal experiences of faith. Ahoifanujugan tells us more.
Voices were lifted to heaven in worship and thanksgiving. The first edition of God is Able brought together worshippers, believers, and guests in a spirit of fellowship and gratitude. The event aimed to celebrate God's goodness and bear witness to His faithfulness. Several gospel artists took the stage to share a message of hope through music. Together, they raised their voices to celebrate the greatness and wonders of God. God is Able is designed as an annual gathering dedicated to worship, thanksgiving, and testimonies of God's faithfulness.
And that brings us to the end of today's edition. Thanks to my wonderful team and to you, cherished viewers, for watching. Stay tuned to our channel for more updates and remember to be grateful to God no matter the situation. Have a wonderful evening. See you next time. Goodbye.